So I figured while I'm talking about surgery today, I should talk about my C-section because I never got around to that. I am currently 4 months postpartum. My little one actually just turned 4 months old the other day. Um, I had a healthy 7.5 pound baby girl, and you won't be seeing anything of her name or face on this channel because I want to protect her privacy. And I don't want to post. I really don't agree with posting every detail of her life online because there's too many predators. So you'll never see my baby on this channel until she's old enough to, either personally post herself or whatever she decides to do in the future. Um, Now, as far as my C-section, it went wonderful. This is a whole positive story. I didn't have a bad experience, but I think the worst part of it was just not sleeping that first little while in the hospital because you have a newborn and things are different and you're adjusting. So I was supposed to get a C-section at 39 weeks, and I'm sure watching any videos on my channel, you can guess that it has everything to do with the fact that I have severe chronic conditions, and we were worried about things going south quickly in a natural labor because I have my body is very exercise intolerant, and labor is a long marathon, and so we didn't want anything to happen while while, um, while I was in labor and entered an emergency C-section because those are infinitely worse. So I had for anesthesia, I had both a spinal and an epidural. Um, I got to be awake, which was nice because then that means I got to meet my baby fast. So I spent about 6 hours in labor because my water broke at home, and I had been drinking a protein shake at the time, so I had to wait 6 hours post that protein shake to be safe for anesthesia, especially with my gastroparesis. There's such a common factor here of vomiting with gastroparesis. So excuse me. My so I spent 6 hours in labor. Contractions suck, as I always do. I probably would have gotten the epidural anyways, just because it was really painful at only 2 centimeters dilated. I wasn't dilating very quickly at all. I couldn't relax. So if I had gone natural, it probably been like a very, very long labor. Um, I so like I said, my water broke. Something I wasn't expecting was that it keeps going after it breaks. So like you feel like you're peeing yourself for 6 hours straight, and that's a little funky fresh. And you become very comfortable very quick with all these people who come and check on you. I went to a hospital that does all women for their labor and delivery. Like your OB may be a man in the surgery room, but you have all your nurses and otherwise are women. My primary OB, who had been seeing my entire pregnancy, actually was on vacation the day my baby decided to come. So I had to see another OB. It was an older attending and a newer intern. I'm okay with that. I've always been okay with, the teaching stuff. Of course, I have very rare conditions, and so it is a unique experience to see things, and I want them to be better prepared in the future for people with my conditions. So, and I am comfortable with that. If you're not comfortable with that, I totally get it. But I was very comfortable from start to finish. Well, I mean, uncomfortable being in labor, but comfortable with the way I was being treated. They always talked to me and let me know what they were doing. I actually I've nominated one of my nurses for a Daisy Award, the nurse that went into surgery and post surgery with me, because she was so wonderful. Um, she was the nurse that helped me brace while they did the spinal and the epidural, because it kind of, for me, it tickled a little where they were putting it, because I'm very sensitive in that spot on my back. And it didn't trigger any pain, but it was hard not to move because it felt like it was very ticklish. And so but once it started, because they did the epidural first, kind of, and then the spinal. Once they started the epidural, my legs were like nice and jelly, and then when they did the spinal, they were gone. And so they laid me back. They got my husband back in the bunny suit. I have a picture of him. If he's okay with it, I'll put it up here. And and they have the big shield, and then you can't feel your belly at all. So I didn't even know they were cutting into me when they started. Like, they told me, but like I couldn't feel it at all. I wouldn't have been aware if they hadn't told me. And my anesthesiologist was great, and she kept checking on me as she was pushing the anesthesia to make sure I was comfortable. I wasn't feeling anything. I wasn't getting too numb, because, like, if it hits your chest and you have a hard time breathing, that turns into an emergency. And they got through, and they played Hamilton for me. And so my daughter was born to Hamilton, and they got to this magic moment where they said, we're about to push her out, because they push the top of your stomach to push the baby out when they're in a normal position, at least. I don't know about other positions. And it was the most magical moment when she came out and she cried, and I could hear her for the first time. So I'm going to tear up just thinking about her being born. And they go do the weighing and make sure they're breathing fine. And then they had let my husband bring her over, and I got to see her for the first time. Oh, she was so beautiful. She is still beautiful. She's alive. Sorry, I'm just thinking about it. And she got a 9 on her APGAR scores both times. Good, healthy baby. And then they spend time. They let you hang out with your baby and your husband while they stitch you up, and then they transfer you to a post-surgery room just for a couple hours to monitor you, make sure nothing goes wrong. I'm actually going to link another YouTube video that it shows the very real process of the surgery. I found it helped me, but it's very graphic. So if you don't want to watch a graphic video, I don't recommend it. But it helped me because it showed me the entire process, so I knew what it was going to be going into it. And that made me feel more comfortable. But she was just beautiful. It was a little past midnight when she was born. And then in that quiet little post C-section room they had me in, it was nice just, being there with my husband and getting to hold my baby for the first time. And, which I may post a picture of that because you can't see her face. And it was just, there was so much magic, even with the C-section. So if you're nervous about having to have a C-section, don't be, especially if it's a planned one. I can't vouch for emergency C-sections because I didn't have an emergency C-section. And I've heard those are worse because you're not expecting them, a little bit more traumatic. And things are a little bit faster. But just having had a planned one, it was, I had a really good time with it. And then we didn't have any problems with breastfeeding until, like, I personally, at about, I think it was about 3 months, my body just stopped making altogether, which was fine because she was spitting it up anyways, because we had to put her on lactose intolerant formula, so, which helped. She's not throwing everything up anymore. And then pain-wise, honestly, I didn't find it bad. Of course, I deal with a lot of abdominal surgery, so it might be a little different for you. But about 12 hours after surgery, I was getting up. I was getting myself to the bathroom. As soon as they took the catheter out, I was getting myself to the bathroom. And part of that pre-op is they do put a catheter in. You don't feel it. It's they did mine after they got me like numb. So I was up going to the bathroom. I was taking care of the little one, and I do recommend keeping up with whatever pain meds you have around the clock. I never took the stronger pain medicine they gave me. I only ever took the Tylenol and ibuprofen. And I was probably about 4 or 5 days postpartum when I stopped taking it altogether. And after 2 weeks, I was pain-free walking around. So I found that the healing wasn't bad. I have very real pictures of what my postpartum body looks like immediately postpartum. And so like there was like 1 day postpartum, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days. When I got home, I think I took pictures of what the C-sections, like bandaging and scars, look like, which I had I believe a pressure bandage and then a Steri strips. And I do know they did some stitches, like dissolvable stitches under the skin. And, because they have to, because you do cut a whole uterus open. And I healed wonderfully. I do have a scar. You will probably have a scar unless you manage to get a freaking plastic surgeon or something crazy to do yours. And so pain management was pretty easy. I have a little bit of a higher pain tolerance though, just from all my previous surgeries. Heck, I'm standing here post-surgery talking to you about this. And then I think the hardest part for me was I had a hard time sleeping in the hospital, but that's because 24 hours after my little one was born, she began to cluster feed, and she would feed 30 minutes every hour. And I do mean 30 minutes every single hour. I was having a hard time getting sleep. And then she settled out as like my regular milk came in. But like the C-section as a whole, it's a good experience. You're not going through a long, arduous labor. If you're one of those people that does like the full natural birth, good for you. If you're one of those people that does medicated vaginal birth, good for you. If you have an emergency C-section, I hope that went well and that you still felt like you had a good birth. I really do. If you had a planned C-section like I did, good for you. I just wanted to share my positive C-section story because I see a lot of horror stories about C-sections. And I had such an easy going time with mine. And I have a family member who also had a C-section that had a very easy going time with hers. And there's just a lot of horror stories out there, but keep in mind something when you're seeing these things, people are more likely to talk about a bad experience than a good experience. So you're going to see a skewed amount of bad experiences and rare side effects and possibilities. Keep in mind a lot of these things that people go through are rare. There are some things that are definitely way more common, like you see them just very commonly. Like something that I experience is I still get a little bit of back pain from my epidural and spinal, but it's minimal. And that is just my whole experience. It was nice. It was easy. I recommend doing whatever you feel like you want to do or whatever's safest for you. Anyway,